Hi Bookends! Welcome to this week's 10-minute book review. I'm 10. So if you hear like a boozing sound in the background, that is my air conditioner because it is hot where I am. Very, very hot. So for this week's book review, we're going to be doing Color Me In by Natasha Diaz. Full disclosure, this book was provided to us for free. It is an art copy for the purpose of review via NetGalley. So to start off, we'd like to give a star point, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars did this book garner, and also a rating, which would be like if this was a movie, would it be rated PG-13, rated R, you know, audience would be able to watch it. So star point, this is a 10 out of 10. We're gonna go into why it's a 10 out of 10, but this is a 10 out of 10. And the rating, I would say PG. There's nothing, there are some parts that might be a little confusing for younger readers, but I still think that they would benefit from reading it anyway. Let me just say they're not gonna learn anything they didn't already know if they're like 12 or 11. Getting right into it, the main player is named Nevaeh Levitt. Her parents are divorced, and her father is Jewish. Her mother is African American. Well, they're not actually divorced, but they're separated. They're going through a divorce, and because of that, she's living at her grandfather, her maternal grandfather's house, her mom's father's house in Harlem, New York. And so she's adjusting. She is very light-skinned to the point where she's passing for white. And so like when she goes to her grandfather's church, it's like people look like, oh, they bringing white people up in here, gentrification, when really it's just, no, she's just light-skinned. She just bright-skinned. That's what she's bright-skinned, you know. And her cousins don't really know what to make of her. Her littlest cousin, he's so sweet. He's in love with her, like not in a nasty way. He's like he's a little love bug. He loves her. Her twin cousins, who are I think around her age, one of the twin cousins is like, she's cool with her. The other twin is like, you know, she doesn't really want her around. I think it's more of a jealousy thing. If you live in the black community, or you're a part of the black community, or you're around the black community, you're aware of colorism, where, I'm just gonna put it out there, like, black people, we have kids that are different colors. Like, I don't know any person who had all their children the exact same color. You know, my parents are one color, they're two different colors. My siblings and I came in a range of colors. My son is darker than me, you know. So black people, we just have kids in different colors, you know. That's what it is. And in some cultures, I'm sad to say African Americans are a part of this as well. There is the stigma of colorism, which is, oh, the lighter one is prettier, or the darker one is stronger, you know. Thankfully, I want to say from my parents' generation going forward, that has lessened a lot, but it's still there for some people. Like, my parents didn't look at my siblings and I and say, oh, that one's smarter because they're this color, and that one's cuter because she's that color, and that one, you know, we didn't do all that. And my son hasn't learned to dislike himself because of his shade, and he doesn't think of me as prettier because of my shade, or weaker because of my shade. So yeah, there is colorism, and I believe that her older cousin, like her twin cousins, one of them is jealous of her because of how she looks. That's my fervent belief. So basically, Nevaeh is spending the summer with her mom's family, and she's kind of learning what it is to be black in a way. It's not that she didn't already know. Like, her grandmother, her maternal grandmother, would always come to visit her. No one else in her family would, and they would go like to birthday parties and stuff like that, but her maternal grandmother would always go up to the burbs to go see her. So she knew about her, but her maternal grandmother unfortunately passed. So she's basically struggling to learn how to be black, but she's more accepted in the African American community. When she goes up to where her father is to go visit him, of course, he's dad. Daddy's gonna love you regardless, right? So it's not a problem with daddy. And her father's mother, her grandmother, I think she calls her Bubby, she loves her too. I just think at times it's hard to make head or tails out of her. So she's kind of in between worlds. right? In between being white Jewish and in between being African American. I think her family's Baptist, Methodist. I think that they just mentioned Christian. I'm not sure what denomination. So the big thing is, right? She's trying to figure out why her parents separated, because her mother didn't tell her, right? And she's in high school, so I'm surprised that her mother didn't say anything, but whatever. Her mother didn't tell her. Her father didn't tell her. All she knows is that one day she came home and her mom was like, here's our bags, we gotta go. She finds out that her father was cheating on her mother with his secretary. He's like a top-notch, like $100,000 a case type lawyer. And he was cheating on her mother with his secretary, which I believe the secretary is white, and the mother's like, I ain't having it, and so she's leaving. She left him. She didn't, you know, Nevaeh didn't want to believe this, but then she found out it was true because she walked in on her dad and the woman at his job. So, yeah, there's that. So she has to deal with her father's infidelity. And when I say deal with her father's infidelity, neither one of her parents are putting her in the middle of what he did. Like, her mother isn't like, your father's this. Or his, you know, her father isn't like, your mother was never good enough. Like, no, neither one of her parents are pitting her against the other one. But now that they're getting a divorce, her father wants her to be more into Judaism than she was before. So when they were living together, when the three of them were living together, he was like, we're not Jewish by religion, we're Jewish by ethnicity. Now that she's living with her mom, now he's like, oh, I'm so sweaty. Okay, so now he's like, I want you to learn to do Jewish things. And like, she's like, nah, bruh, no. I don't like you no more. And I don't want to do this. So she meets a rabbi. He has a rabbi. I think the rabbi's name is Sarah, which is interesting. I did not know that there were female rabbis. Did you know that? I didn't know that. So he wants her to help her go over like the Torah so she can do her bat mitzvah. I believe for women is, I believe it's bat mitzvah. Bat mitzvah. Her Jewish sweet 16. So yeah, and Sarah's kind of like the cool rabbi. Like, I like her. Like, in the beginning, Nevaeh didn't like her, but that's only because she felt like she was being forced to learn all this stuff about Judaism when she was never forced to do it before. Like, when she goes to church with her with her mom and her grandfather and stuff, she's not really forced to do anything but stand and clap when everyone else stands and claps, and then sits down when everyone else sits down. She's not really made to do anything else. But I don't know, have you ever been to church? You don't do anything really unless you're a part of like a choir or something. But if you've ever been to church, or at least black church, if you're just sitting in the pews, you're not required to do anything aside from not making noise if you're a kid. And don't let anyone see that you're on your cell phone, or that's it, somebody's slapping you. So yeah, there's not much in the way of requirements when she goes to church, but her father wants her like to get all this Jewish stuff down. And at first she's kind of like fighting to be away from Sarah, but then Sarah turns out to be a really cool person. There was a really interesting part, right, that some people have talked about, not in this, it was in this book and people have been talking about it just off and on. So of course she's biracial. She's not just black, she's not just Jewish, she's biracial. So Black Lives Matters came in, you know, Black Lives Matter. So that topic came in and she was like, she was going to do something for it. Nevaeh was going to do something for it. And her father was confused, like, why would you do that? And she's like, because I'm one of those black lives. And so he looks at his daughter, his very, very fair-skinned daughter, who doesn't look like she has an ounce of black in her. I don't know what the white perspective is on this, so I'm just going to speak about this from the perspective of a mother, right? So as a mother, right, I held my baby inside of me for 9 months, and then he was taken out of me, and I held him and I loved him. My husband is African American. I'm African American. My son is African American. So no matter what shade my baby came out, I already know what my baby is, right? He's African American. So in some way, shape, or form, we're going to have some kind of connection because I look like him. He looks like me in some way. It may not be the same shade, but we're the same color. someone who is biracial, that's not always the case, right? Like if it's a black woman, she could deliver a child that looks absolutely nothing like her. They may have some facial features or some physical features that are similar, but they might not look anything like them. And the same for a white woman who has a biracial child. The child may not look anything like them. Now, from Nevaeh's father's perspective, his baby, of course, he's never going to deny who her mother is. He loved her mother at one point. So he's never going to deny the fact that her mother is black. But at this point in the book, it's pivotal the way he looks at her. You can see that he looks at his daughter not as a black woman. He sees his daughter as a Jewish woman or as a white woman. And I want to be angry about that, but in all honesty, I can't be angry at him for having those kind of feelings, because this is his child. And so if I had a child by a white man and my child had came out looking white, right, I would say my child is black because I am black. This is my child, right? And so that kind of leaves him a little stunned, a little paused for words, like a little lost for words, I should say, because he's like, why is my baby calling herself black? And it's not that he's a racist, right? It's not that he's saying, oh my God, why is she calling herself black? That's not, no, that's not what he's doing. It's more so he's like, I didn't know she felt this way. I didn't know she saw herself this way. Like, she can see her color just as well as I can see her color. I didn't know that she identified as black. So I can sympathize with him in regards to that, not because I've actually experienced it, because I haven't, but because I can imagine what it would feel like to have a child that looks absolutely nothing like me, but I know was taken from my body. And so I would say this child is whatever I am. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting thing that that Miss Diaz brought out. I thought it was very interesting that she put that in there, because it wasn't malicious in any way. He wasn't like, I hate black people. That was definitely not the case. It was more so, I didn't know you saw yourself this way. You know, yeah, that was interesting. That was deep. She ends up meeting a boy in Harlem, and before like anyone gets any ideas, it's not like that. He's cool, he's nice. I believe he's Spanish because his name is Jesus, or he might just be a black kid with a Spanish name. Like, there's a lot of black Lorenzos, so, and black Carloses. Lorenzo and Carlos seem to be universal. They could be black or Spanish. But she meets Jesus, and one of her cousins had a crush on him. Not the cousin who likes her, but the cousin who thinks that she's too light-skinned to be around them. Yeah, so she's upset that he has a crush on Nevaeh, but it's not Nevaeh's fault, and Nevaeh kind of likes him too, so they kind of do their thing. Not sex, they just, you know, they do their thing, their boyfriend girlfriend thing. Something else I thought was very interesting, one of her twins, right, the twin that likes Nevaeh, was cornrowing her hair, right, because she had never had her hair cornrowed before, because remember, she was living out in the burbs with white people. So when the twin that doesn't like her sees this, she's like, oh my God, now you're gonna have these white girls looking at her thinking that it's okay for them to wear cornrows anytime other than when they're coming back from the Bahamas. And I had to think about that too. Okay, so I don't know if you know Halsey, right? She's one of my favorite singers. She's actually from New Jersey too, so hey. I doubt she'll ever look at my video, but hi Halsey if you're looking. So yeah, she is biracial as well. If you don't know what to look for, you wouldn't know that she's biracial. You would think that she is just white. And she even gave an interview where she was saying that when she would, you know, do her thing, her adult thing with white boys, you know, because she has the right to do what she wants to or whatever, but they'd be like, wow, your nipples are brown. Why is that? And she'd be thinking in her head, because I'm black. I guess white women have pink areolas, I guess. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. But she brought up how being a white presenting black person in America has been a strange experience, because she's had black people walk up to her and say, you can't wear your hair like that, because she's had her hair in cornrows and braids and stuff before, and fishtails, and like, having black people say, you can't wear your hair like that on Twitter, like Twitter fingers rolling, like, why can't I wear my hair like this? Because you're not black. Put up a picture of her and her father, like, then who this man right here? Yeah, that's my dad. Yeah, I'm black, I can wear this. And when she had, I remember when she put up a picture on Twitter with her baby fro, because she was letting her hair grow out, and she put up a picture like, me with a natural. And some people are like, just these white girls, they put a perm in their hair and they think they special. And so, I don't know if Ms. Diaz meant to touch on this, but it is something interesting, right? Because I know as African American, I don't want my identity used as, I don't want my braids or any part of my identity, my color, any part of my identity used as a costume for someone else. Now, if they want to engage in my culture, that's cool, but I don't want any part of my being, my body, my culture, my history to be turned into a costume for someone else. But if someone's extremely light-skinned or bright-skinned, right, they have every right to this culture. It's no longer, it's not just my culture, it's their culture too. They have every right to this culture. And they don't have to choose between either I'm 100% this or I'm 100% this. No. If they are half Mexican and half African American, they could rap over a mariachi band if they just wanted to. They could rap hip-hop with a mariachi band if they just wanted to. You know, if they are half Irish and half black. I know my grandmother is half, well, she's no longer with us, but she was half Irish and half black. And so because of that, we have certain things that we do in our home that mirror Irish traditions. The other African Americans don't do. And I used to think that was weird, but then I found out, okay, no, this came from our Irish part of the family. You know, because you don't have to just choose one side if you have more than one side. And so just because Nevaeh was bright-skinned, that didn't mean that she didn't have less of a right to her African-American heritage. It didn't mean that she had any less of a right. Well, she was actually Jamaican, half African-American. Okay, so it's kind of convoluted. Let me just explain. Okay, so if you recall, well, I don't know if you would know this. I found out about this in high school, but apparently back in the 18-somethings, as reparations for slavery, African Americans were given the opportunity to go to Liberia to start their own country. African Americans were given the opportunity to move to that part of Africa, right? Because America took over it. And so there were some African Americans who did it. Right? So her grandfather's family were part of the African Americans who went to Liberia. Now, his, I think, parents came back over to America, right? So he's African American Liberian. Okay, and then her grandmother is Jamaican. She came over to America when she was young. So she's, I'm just gonna, for the sake of argument, say African American. Okay, so Nevaeh had every right to her culture, to her, I'm African, just African. She had every right to her African culture as any other African person, any other person with African roots in them. Okay, but that does bring out the point, or the thought, just that a lot of people question: does someone who is mixed race have the same cultural rights as someone who is fully or considered fully one race? In my personal opinion, I would say yes. But it was an interesting talking point. Some stuff happens in the book that kind of show the family getting together, falling apart, and getting back together again. I thought it was interesting how she went to a festival and her father was upset that she went to a festival celebrating her Jamaican Islander heritage, but then he was perfectly okay with her learning the Torah and Hebrew for her bat mitzvah. So it's kind of a double-sided thing, but once again, I guess he saw her as his white child, not as a black child. He just his white child by his black wife. A lot happens in the book And I generally do not like YA contemporary. I do consider this a YA contemporary, and I generally don't like YA contemporary, but I'm finding that when I pick one that I like, well, one that looks like it's interesting, it usually is interesting. So yeah, I really loved this book. It comes out August the 20th, so be sure to pick up your copy if this is something that you would like. Also too, something else that I love about it, it does speak about black trauma without becoming black trauma porn. So to give you an example of that, there's Nevaeh, she's walking with her uncle. They just left Whole Foods, and a police officer, you know, pulls them to the side, tells him to stand over there, and pulls her over and is like, hey, is he hurting you? Are you with him because you want to be with him? What's going on? Because the officer thinks that this black man has kidnapped this white girl, or this white girl somehow traveling with this black man who's trying to hurt her. She's like, no, he's my uncle. He's like, you don't have to say that if you don't want to. You're safe. You're safe. I can take you away. And the officer ends up ruining her uncle's food too. And so it kind of showed the difference racially how people are treated. Because of her skin color, the officer automatically assumed that her uncle, who was darker than her, was in some way trying to harm her. There are other examples of black trauma in the book too, but it doesn't go into black porn. Like, it doesn't make it out like African Americans just spend their entire life miserable and afraid, like some authors do. I'm not going to say authors, I'm not going to say books, but some books and authors try to make it out so African Americans just live traumatizing lives, right, the entire time. And like, no, we have happiness too. So yeah, this was a great book. I did enjoy it, and I hope that you guys enjoy it too. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, bookends.